The Grand Hall of the Galactic Peace Center aboard the Hegemony flagship glimmered with an austere brilliance. Suspended in the void just beyond Jupiter's orbit, the massive vessel served as both a symbol of power and the chosen venue for what was being heralded across known space as a historic accord. Ornate chandeliers crafted from crystalline formations native to the Andromeda Galaxy cast prismatic reflections across the polished obsidian floor. The chamber's design, a perfect circle with 12 equidistant pillars supporting a domed ceiling, was meant to convey equality among galactic civilizations. Though everyone present understood, this was merely theatrical. Ambassador Diana Reeves stood at the chamber's center, her posture impeccable, her expression revealing nothing but diplomatic cordiality. Her midnight blue formal attire, styled in Earth's traditional diplomatic cut, but embellished with subtle star patterns that paid homage to humanity's 12 known colony systems, concealed a multitude of secrets. She appeared serene, almost vulnerable as she faced the imposing figure of Commander Vexler Tornik. The Hegemony commander towered over her, his exoskeletal frame augmented with ceremonial battle plates that glinted menacingly under the artificial light. His species, the Crythorns, had evolved in a high-gravity environment with triple-density atmospheric pressure, resulting in their characteristically robust physiology and the intimidating stature that had served them well in establishing dominion over 17 star systems. The documents are prepared, Ambassador Sar. Tornik announced, his multi-tone voice resonating through specialized translation modules. Once signed, humanity will enjoy the protection and privileges of association with the Hegemony Collective. His outer mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. Your species has shown impressive adaptability in such a short time, expanding to 12 colonies despite your technological limitations. Behind Ambassador Reeves stood her carefully selected team, Admiral Jackson Parker, a weathered veteran whose silver hair and stern expression belied a strategic mind that had guided Earth's defense forces for 2 decades. Dr. Marcus Fleming, ostensibly a cultural attaché, but in truth, the architect behind humanity's most classified technological initiatives, and the political advisors, Thomas Whitfield and Lakshmi Patel, whose analytical prowess had proven invaluable in deciphering the complex webs of interstellar politics. "We are honored by the Hegemony's recognition," Reeves replied, her voice measured and melodious. "Humanity has always valued peaceful coexistence above all." The holographic treaty shimmered between them, a document that had taken 17 months of negotiations, hundreds of interspecies legal consultations, and countless concessions from Earth. Its terms outlined trade agreements, technological exchange protocols, and mutual defense pacts that, on the surface, appeared generous to the relatively young, spacefaring human civilization. Ambassador Pluridian Krendel, representing the Pluridian Confederacy, a long-standing but increasingly marginalized member of the Hegemony, observed from the sidelines, his translucent appendages rippling with what human xenopsychologists had identified as concern. "Before we proceed with the signing ceremony," Tornik said, his tone shifting subtly as he gestured for his subordinates to seal the chamber doors, "I wish to speak candidly, as is the custom between soon-to-be allies." Reeves nodded graciously. "Transparency builds trust, Commander." The massive doors hissed shut, and the ambient lighting dimmed slightly. Security drones positioned themselves at each of the 12 pillars, their weapon systems humming to life with a barely perceptible vibration. Tornik's expression changed, the pretense of diplomatic courtesy evaporating like water on hot metal. "Let us dispense with the charade, Ambassador. The terms you're about to sign are merely a prelude. Within 48 Earth hours of this treaty's ratification, the Hegemony will establish protective bases throughout your colony systems. Within 1 Earth week, we will implement administrative oversight of your planetary defense grid. And within 1 Earth month, your species will provide us with complete access to your biosphere for resource extraction. Admiral Parker's hand instinctively moved toward his ceremonial sidearm, a movement immediately noticed by the security drones, whose targeting systems locked onto him with alarming precision. "I wouldn't advise that, Admiral," Tornik said, without even looking in Parker's direction. "Your weapons, ceremonial or otherwise, were neutralized the moment you boarded this vessel." Reeves raised her hand slightly, a subtle signal for Parker to stand down. Her expression remained unchanged. No shock, no outrage, not even disappointment. "You seem unsurprised, Ambassador." Tornik observed his head tilting in a gesture of curiosity. "Should I be?" Reeves replied, her voice as calm as still water. "The hegemony has absorbed 17 civilizations using this exact methodology over the past century. The Artesian conglomerate, the Sirius Coalition, the Proxima Republics all believed they were entering into equal partnerships. All now serve as resource tributaries to your empire." Tornik's outer mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of amusement. "Yet, knowing this, you still came. You still negotiated. You still prepared to sign." "Knowledge and action are different matters, Commander," Reeves said. "Sometimes the appearance of naivety serves a greater purpose." Something in her tone, perhaps its unwavering steadiness, perhaps the absence of expected fear, caused Tornik to pause. A flicker of uncertainty passed through his compound eyes. "The signing ceremony will proceed as planned," he declared after a moment. "Your foreknowledge changes nothing. Earth's military capabilities are precisely measured and thoroughly outmatched. Your colonies are isolated and vulnerable. Resistance would be mathematically futile." Reeves smiled, then a genuine expression that reached her eyes. "Mathematics has always been a human specialty, Commander, especially probability calculations." With ceremonial flourish, Admiral Parker stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be Earth's traditional diplomatic gift, a gleaming azure sphere mounted on an ornate stand. The sphere pulsed with a gentle blue light, reminiscent of Earth's oceans when viewed from orbit. "A token of Earth's commitment to our new relationship," Reeves explained. "We call it the Sphere of Concordance, symbolic of the transparency and trust we hope to build." Tornik gestured to one of his subordinates to accept the gift, his attention still fixed on Reeves' inexplicably confident demeanor. As the sphere changed hands, a barely perceptible shimmer rippled through the air, so subtle that it could have been dismissed as a trick of the light or a momentary fluctuation in the ship's gravity field. The first alarm sounded 7 seconds later. "Commander, a hegemony officer reported from a monitoring station. We're detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the fleet. Systems are reporting anomalies." Tornik's posture stiffened. "Specify." "Communication relays are experiencing quantum fluctuations. Weapon systems are cycling through diagnostic loops. Navigation is reporting coordinate inconsistencies across all vessels." The officer's voice rose with growing concern. "Sir, something is interfacing with our networks." Tornik's gaze shot to the azure sphere, which continued to pulse with serene blue light. "What have you done?" he demanded. Reeves maintained her diplomatic smile. "We've merely expedited the timeline of revelations, Commander. You chose to be candid about your intentions. We're responding in kind." Throughout the chamber and beyond, across the entire hegemony fleet, the effects of the human device propagated at quantum speeds. Systems didn't shut down. They simply ceased responding to hegemony commands. Security drones powered down in perfect synchronization. The holographic treaty display flickered and dissolved. "Impossible," Tornik whispered, watching as his mighty warships, visible through the chamber's vast viewport, drifted into dormant states, their lights dimming, their weapons ports closing. "Your technology isn't capable of this. The technology you believed we possessed isn't capable of this," Reeves corrected. "What you're witnessing is a localized quantum entanglement field, what we call a lockout sphere. Its effects are precisely targeted to interface with hegemony command protocols, while leaving life support and basic functions untouched." Admiral Parker stepped forward, his earlier hesitation replaced with military confidence. Your vessels are currently experiencing what we call a strategic paralysis event. Your crews are unharmed, but unable to access any control systems. Your communication networks are permitting only reception, not transmission. Dr. Marcus Fleming joined them, his academic demeanor at odds with the tension in the room. The sphere contains 6 million quantum-locked particles that have been entangled with counterparts we placed on each of your ships during our inspection visits over the past year. Quite elegant in its simplicity, actually. Tornik's mandibles clicked in agitation. This is an act of war. No, Reeves countered. This is a renegotiation of terms from a position of actual parity, rather than the illusion of it you intended to create. With a subtle gesture from Reeves, Lakshmi Patel activated a communication device that had somehow remained functional, despite the hegemony's security measures. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing not just the immediate space around Jupiter, where the hegemony fleet hung immobilized, but a much broader strategic view. Allow me to update your understanding of humanity's galactic footprint, Reeves said, as the display zoomed out to reveal not 12, but 57 human colony systems, most positioned in what the hegemony had considered empty or uncharted space. While your intelligence services were monitoring our official colonial expansion, we were quietly establishing what we call our shadow network. Tornik stared at the display in disbelief. The strategic implications were staggering. Human presence extended far beyond what hegemony intelligence had detected, creating a three-dimensional web that effectively surrounded several key hegemony systems. Furthermore, Admiral Parker added, each of these locations houses what we call phase-shift harbors, facilities, capable of transitioning capital ships between normal space and a dimensional state, invisible to conventional sensors. Our fleet isn't merely larger than you estimated. It's been operating in proximity to your key installations for years, gathering intelligence. Thomas Whitfield stepped forward, activating another section of the holographic display. We've been receiving and decrypting your communications since first contact, Commander. We know the Hegemony Council's true directives regarding Earth. We've identified your supply line vulnerabilities, your manufacturing bottlenecks, your genetic engineering programs aimed at creating specialized invasion forces for Earth's varied biomes. That's not possible, Tornik insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. Our quantum encryption is based on a mathematical principle that Dr. Fleming's team solved 4 years ago, Reeves interrupted. What you're experiencing isn't just a technological surprise, Commander. It's the culmination of a strategic deception that began the moment your scout ships entered our solar system. Outside the viewport, a fleet of sleek human vessels shimmered into existence, materializing from what appeared to be empty space as they deactivated their phase shift technology. They took up strategic positions around the paralyzed hegemony ships, their designs unfamiliar even to Tornik's experienced eye. Now, Reeves set her tone, shifting from diplomatic to authoritative. Let's discuss the actual terms of our relationship moving forward. Ambassador Pluridian Krendel moved closer, his translucent form rippling with what might have been nervous energy. Ambassador Reeves, he ventured cautiously, the Pluridian Confederacy has always advocated for more equitable relations among galactic civilizations. Perhaps we could serve as neutral mediators in this renegotiation. Reeves regarded the Pluridian with thoughtful consideration. Your reputation for fairness precedes you, Ambassador Krendel. We would welcome your perspective provided you understand that these negotiations will proceed from a foundation of actual power balance, not pretense. Tornik's posture had changed, the intimidating dominance replaced by a rigid tension that betrayed his growing realization of the strategic catastrophe unfolding around him. The High Council will never accept terms dictated under duress, he declared, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Then perhaps the High Council needs better information upon which to base their decisions, Reeves replied. With another gesture to Patel, the holographic display shifted to show a direct communication link to the Hegemony High Council chamber On their homeworld, 17 stern faces, staring back in a mixture of shock and outrage, as they witnessed their fleet's incapacitation in real time. Esteemed council members, Reeves addressed them directly. I am Ambassador Diana Reeves of Earth. The demonstration you're witnessing was necessitated by Commander Tornik's candid admission of the hegemony's true intentions regarding our world. We've activated this direct link to ensure you understand the actual strategic reality rather than continuing to operate under outdated assumptions about humanity's capabilities. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of multi-species outrage, which Reeves allowed to continue for precisely 30 seconds before raising her hand. Your time is precious, as is ours, so I will be direct, she continued, once the noise subsided. The treaty Commander Tornik was about to have me sign would have relegated humanity to vassal status within your empire. The terms we now propose instead establish a mutual recognition pact between equals. She gestured, and a new holographic document appeared far simpler than the complex treaty that had dissolved earlier. Our terms are straightforward. First, the hegemony will acknowledge humanity's sovereign control over all 57 of our colony systems and recognize our right to continue expansion into unclaimed regions. Second, the practice of technological suppression against emerging civilizations will cease immediately. Third, a joint commission with equal representation will be established to address resource disputes and prevent future conflicts. Admiral Parker stepped forward. As a demonstration of good faith, once these terms are agreed upon, we will return control of your vessels and provide your engineers with limited access to our phase shift technology, sufficient for navigation safety, but not military application. The leader of the High Council, a massive entity whose species had founded the hegemony millennia ago, leaned forward in the holographic projection. And if we refuse these terms, then the current situation continues, Reeves replied simply. Your fleet remains paralyzed, your communications networks remain compromised, and we release to every civilization within the hegemony the complete archive of Council directives regarding resource extraction, population control, and technological suppression that we've accumulated over the past decade. The Council chamber fell silent. You have 6 Earth hours to deliberate, Reeves concluded. We await your decision. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in tense silence. Tornik's compound eyes fixed on Reeves with newfound respect, tinged with bitter resentment. You deceived us completely. We defended ourselves preemptively, she corrected. There's a difference. How long? He demanded. How long have you been planning this? Since the day your scout ships entered our system, and we intercepted their true mission parameters, Admiral Parker answered. Did you really believe we wouldn't recognize a tactical assessment disguised as a diplomatic overture? Tornik's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. The Council will not submit to these demands. They would rather sacrifice this fleet than acknowledge a previously unknown power as an equal. Perhaps, Reeves acknowledged. But sacrifice is easier to contemplate from a distance than when facing its immediate consequences. You, Commander, understand this better than most. The implication hung in the air between them, a reminder that if the Council rejected humanity's terms, Tornik and his crew would bear the immediate cost of that decision. What happens to me and my officers if these new terms are accepted? Tornik asked, after a long moment of calculation. Dr. Fleming answered with academic precision. Standard diplomatic protocols would apply. You would be permitted to return to hegemony space with full honors, or should you prefer a different option, Earth would consider applications for political asylum. Tornik's eyes narrowed. Asylum? You suggest I might betray the hegemony? We suggest that individuals of conscience sometimes find themselves serving systems that don't reflect their personal values, Reeves clarified. The offer stands regardless of your choice. As they waited for the Council's deliberation, Ambassador Krendel approached Reeves privately. Your strategy was extraordinarily effective. The Pluridian observed his translucent form, shifting through subtle color variations that indicated complex emotions. But I must ask, why reveal so much of your technological capabilities now? Surprise is a resource best conserved. Reeves nodded thoughtfully. A valid question, Ambassador. The answer lies in psychological impact. Had we simply defeated one hegemony fleet, they would have returned with greater numbers. By demonstrating capacities that fundamentally challenge their understanding of power dynamics in the galaxy, we create an uncertainty that military might alone cannot achieve. And the Pluridian Confederacy, Krendel asked cautiously. Where do we stand in this new arrangement you envision? That, Reeves replied with genuine warmth, depends entirely on what you want, Ambassador. Humanity has studied the historical records. The Pluridians were a founding member of what was meant to be a cooperative alliance before the hegemony's current leadership transformed it into an empire. We would welcome the opportunity to work with civilizations that share our view of galactic cooperation based on mutual respect rather than domination. Krendel's colors shifted to what xenopsychologists had identified as thoughtful consideration. There are factions within our government that have long advocated for greater independence from hegemony influence. This demonstration may strengthen their position considerably. Then perhaps this moment serves multiple civilizations' interests, Reeves suggested. Across the chamber, Tornik stood in rigid silence, watching the paralyzed fleet through the viewport. His career, indeed, his very life, hung in the balance of decisions being made, light years away by a council that might well sacrifice him to preserve their pride. 5 hours and 43 minutes after the transmission to the High Council, their response arrived. The holographic projection reappeared in the center of the chamber, showing only the council leader this time, his massive form diminished somehow by the circumstances. We have reviewed your terms, Ambassador Reeves. He announced, every word clearly painful to articulate. The Hegemony High Council agrees to the framework you have proposed, with the request that specific implementation details be negotiated by a special commission over the coming months. Reeves nodded, betraying neither triumph nor relief. A reasonable approach, Counselor. We will restore operational control to your vessels immediately following the signing of the preliminary accord. There is one additional matter. The council leader added, his tone hardening slightly. Commander Tornik has failed in his mission and compromised hegemony security. We require his immediate return to face judgment according to our laws. All eyes in the chamber turned to Tornik, whose rigid posture betrayed no emotion, though everyone present understood what judgment would entail for a commander who had exposed his fleet to such complete defeat. Reeves turned to face Tornik directly. Commander, while the preliminary accord recognizes the hegemony's internal judicial sovereignty, it also establishes a provision for political asylum requests that supersede extradition demands. The choice is yours. Tornik's compound eyes flickered between Reeves and the projection of the council leader. His mandibles clicked once softly, a sound that his species' body language experts would identify as profound uncertainty. I require time to consider my options, he finally responded. Unacceptable, the council leader thundered. Tornik, you will return immediately to... Reeves made a subtle gesture, and the transmission abruptly ended. Communications seem to be experiencing temporary difficulties, she remarked mildly. I'm sure we can re-establish contact after the preliminary accord is signed, and you've had adequate time for reflection, Commander. Tornik stared at her mandibles, clicking rapidly, in a complex pattern that the translation systems struggled to interpret. You would defy the Council so directly after achieving your diplomatic victory. This isn't about diplomacy anymore, Commander, Reeves replied. It's about a principle that humanity holds sacred, that individuals should not be sacrificed as symbols when systems fail. For the first time since the encounter began, something resembling genuine emotion showed in Tornik's alien features. A recognition, perhaps, that the humans he had dismissed as technologically inferior and strategically naive operated according to ethical frameworks as complex as their hidden technologies. As preparations for the new signing ceremony began, Ambassador Krendel approached Reeves once more. I have transmitted a secure communication to my government, he informed her quietly. The Pluridian Confederacy is formally requesting observer status at these negotiations, with the possibility of withdrawing from the hegemony alliance structure, depending on outcomes. Reeves nodded. We would welcome Pluridian participation, Ambassador. A more balanced galactic community benefits everyone, except those whose power derives solely from imbalance. Outside the viewport, human ships had taken up escort positions around the still immobilized hegemony fleet. Their sleek designs, previously unknown to galactic intelligence services, represented not just technological achievement, but the success of humanity's greatest strategic gambit, appearing less advanced than they were. Understanding that being underestimated was sometimes the greatest advantage of all. Admiral Parker joined Reeves at the viewport, his weathered features reflecting the stars. The Council surrendered more easily than expected, he observed quietly. They haven't surrendered, Admiral, Reeves corrected. They've simply recognized that their current strategy has failed. They'll be formulating new approaches before their ships even return to hegemony space. And we'll be ready, Parker affirmed. With more than they know, Reeves agreed. The lockout sphere revealed only our defensive capabilities. Our true technological edge remains hidden, as it should, until absolutely necessary. As they turned back toward the chamber where the new accord would be signed, Reeves paused. Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology, Admiral. It's been our capacity to learn from history, to recognize that empires which rely on subjugation rather than cooperation inevitably create the conditions for their own downfall. A lesson the hegemony will now begin learning, Parker noted. Indeed, Reeves agreed, though whether they truly absorb it remains to be seen. The signing ceremony that followed bore little resemblance to the elaborate ritual that had been planned. Instead of flowery speeches and complex protocols, representatives from both sides approached a simple table where the preliminary accord, just 3 pages of clear, unambiguous terms, awaited their signatures. As Reeves pressed her thumb to the document's authentication panel, a subtle shimmer rippled through the air, not from any human device this time, but from the natural consequence of a fundamental shift in the galactic order. In diplomatic chambers across 17 star systems, officials would soon be awakening to a new reality, that humans were not the naive newcomers they had appeared to be, but equals who demanded, and now had demonstrated their worthiness of respect. Commander Tornik observed the proceedings with unreadable alien eyes, the weight of his impending decision visible in the rigid set of his exoskeletal frame. The path before him, whether to return to a civilization that would sacrifice him for its pride, or to seek asylum among those who had so thoroughly outmaneuvered him, represented a microcosm of the choice, now facing the hegemony itself: adapt to a new paradigm of galactic relations, or cling to outdated notions of dominance that had just been proven dangerously obsolete. Dr. Fleming supervised the controlled deactivation of the lockout sphere, methodically restoring command functions to the hegemony vessels, according to a carefully calculated schedule that prioritized life support and navigation, while temporarily restricting weapon systems, a precautionary measure that both sides tacitly understood. A remarkable device, Krendel commented, observing the sphere as its blue luminescence gradually faded. The technology alone would have given your people immense leverage in negotiations with any civilization. Yet you chose to keep it hidden until absolutely necessary. The most powerful technologies are those that remain unknown until the moment of maximum impact, Fleming explained. A principle as applicable to diplomacy as to quantum physics. As the last signatures were applied to the accord, Reeves addressed the assembled representatives one final time. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning, she stated, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's unified purpose. The galaxy has operated for too long under the assumption that advanced technology grants the right to dominate others. Earth rejects this premise. We believe that true civilization is measured not by the ability to conquer, but by the wisdom to collaborate. She turned to face Tornik directly. Commander, regardless of your personal decision in the coming hours, please convey this message to your people. Humanity extends an open hand rather than a closed fist. We seek partners, not subjects. And we will defend this principle with every measure of ingenuity and determination that has allowed us to survive and thrive against overwhelming odds throughout our history. Tornik's mandibles clicked softly as he inclined his head in what might have been respect or might simply have been acknowledgement of a superior tactical position. Your message will be conveyed, Ambassador, though I suspect many within the hegemony will require time to adjust their perspective. Time is something we all have, Commander Reeves replied, with a diplomatic smile that concealed layers of meaning, provided we choose to use it wisely. As the human delegation prepared to depart, transferring to their own vessels, which had maintained their positions around the hegemony fleet, Admiral Parker conducted a final security sweep of their temporary quarters aboard the flagship. Finding everything in order, he rejoined Reeves in the shuttle bay. Mission accomplished, Ambassador, he reported with military precision. The first phase, at least. The most critical phase, she corrected. Everything that follows will build upon this foundation. And Commander Tornik, still deliberating his options, Reeves replied, though I suspect his decision will ultimately tell us more about the hegemony's adaptability than his own. As their shuttle detached from the massive hegemony vessel, Reeves gazed back at the fleet that had arrived with such confidence and now departed with such uncertainty. The starfield beyond seemed vaster, somehow filled with possibilities that had been theoretical before this encounter and were now tantalizingly real. You know they'll be analyzing every aspect of this encounter, Parker noted as they accelerated away. Searching for weaknesses, reconsidering strategies. Of course, Reeves agreed. Just as we would in their position. The difference is that we've prepared for that inevitability. She turned her attention to a secure communication panel, where reports were already flowing in from Earth's 57 colony systems, each confirming the successful execution of their assigned roles in what military historians would later call the most comprehensive strategic deception in human history. Phase 2 begins now, she stated, authorizing the implementation of the next stage of humanity's grand strategy. Defensive perimeters around all colonies at maximum alert, intelligence gathering at triple capacity, diplomatic outreach to non-hegemony civilizations accelerated according to Protocol 7. As Earth's hidden fleet escorted the hegemony vessels to the designated departure coordinates, Ambassador Krendl's ship maintained a parallel course. The Pluridian's decision to remain as an observer represented potentially the first fracture in the hegemony's once unquestioned authority, a development that humanity's strategic planners had anticipated but not counted upon. Do you believe they will honor the accord? Krendl asked, during a final communication before their paths diverged. They will honor its letter while seeking ways around its spirit, Reeves replied candidly. Which is why we designed it with minimal ambiguity and multiple enforcement mechanisms. And if they attempt to retaliate through indirect means, Reeves' expression remained serene, but her eyes hardened slightly. Then they will discover that the capabilities we revealed today represent only the outer layer of humanity's defensive doctrines. We truly desire peace, Ambassador Krendl, but we have prepared for every alternative. As the Pluridian's ship veered away toward its home system, bearing news that would send ripples through the political structures of 17 civilizations, Reeves turned her attention to the stars, ahead to the Earth that had entrusted her with its security, and to the humans across 57 worlds who had participated in a strategy decades in the making. The peace treaty had indeed been a lie, but not in the way the hegemony had intended. It had been a catalyst for truth, forcing a galaxy accustomed to hierarchy to confront the reality of genuine equality. And in that confrontation lay the seeds of either a new era of cooperation or a more complex form of conflict, a choice that would not rest with humanity alone, but with every civilization now watching and wondering what other surprises Earth might yet reveal. As their shuttle approached the flagship of Earth's previously hidden fleet, a vessel whose very design philosophy represented a rejection of the brute force approach favored by the hegemony reeves, allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Not in victory over an enemy, but in the vindication of humanity's most fundamental belief that strength need not declare itself to exist, that intelligence could triumph over intimidation, and that the most profound power was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when revelation served greater purposes than concealment. The stars watched in silent witness as humanity stepped out of shadows of its own creation and into a galactic role it had been preparing to assume since the moment it first gazed skyward and wondered what awaited beyond the darkness between the lights.